Welcome into Unbreakable, a mental wealth podcast with Jay Glazer. I'm Jay Glazer, and we are in the throes of the Olympics right now. We got Olympic fever, and I'd love to have on my Olympic gangsters, my friends who I know have succeeded in the Olympics. We've had on Michael Phelps, Lindsey Vonn, Lindsey Berg, and now we have on a really close friend of mine. She is a two-time gold medalist, one-time silver medalist. She doesn't like me to talk about that part. A veteran water polo player, the one and only Cammie Craig. How are you doing, Cammie?
Oh, Jay, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to be here.
My gangster.
On. No, it's so great.
Oh my gosh. Now, Cammie and I have a long, really great relationship. She joined the charity that I founded, MVP, to come in. We take former combat vets and former pro athletes and former athletes, and we put them together when the uniform comes off. And man, Cammie just shined with this group. And more than anything, the very first day I met her, I was like, man, this girl's different. She is up there, and you shine from within. But I understand why you're an Olympic gold medalist. Like that day, you just have it.
Thanks, Jay. I mean, it was such a blessing that I ended up in there that day. I had a teammate that had read up on the foundation MVP, and she goes, "You got to go." We had just, we were in our retirement. It was after the 2016 Olympics, and she was like, "I'm reading through this. I think this is close to you. You got to show up and try out what this program is." And I literally had no idea what to expect. And you intercepted me with big open arms and were like, "Welcome to the family." And I was like, okay, this is great. These are my people. They get it. And the rest is history.
Yeah, it was great. Now, look, Cammie, again, we became really close friends during the time. And she's told me all these stories. And one of them, which she's going to embark on here, I actually had her tell Sean McVay and the Rams coaching staff and a bunch of other coaches as well over, I think it was July 4th weekend one time or more, Memorial Day weekend. And all these coaches were like, oh my, and I'm going to let you tell the story, but the fact that, and I was just, watching everything with the Olympics, the fact that you have to wait 4 years when you don't win a gold to have another shot is mind boggling. Like the NFL, you got to wait 6 months for camp to start again. That's it, right? I lost my first fight in mixed martial arts because I was a wrestler boxer, and this one was style versus style. And I ran into a jiu-jitsu guy who choked me out, and I didn't understand jiu-jitsu. And all the way back in 2003, and I said to the promoter, I need to get on the next card, which was like 5 months later. And he's like, "Well, Jay, it's during football season. I don't care. I'm in. I'll do it. I'll fight. I'll be on TV the next day. I'll bust it up. I don't care," because I couldn't fathom waiting. To wait 4 years for another shot, Cammie, is mind-boggling to me.
And there's a lot of things that can go on in your mind within that 4 years, and a lot of things that can happen with your body within those 4 years. So yeah, I think, if I share a little bit about my history, I'm the former center of the women's U.S. water polo team. I competed in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the 2012 London Olympics, and the 2016 Rio Olympic Games. In 2008 in Beijing, I was the youngest on our team at 21, the biggest, but the youngest. That's just kind of how it goes with me.
I say the most badass, but go ahead.
Yeah. And it was my first Olympic Games, and we had a very, very young team in 2008, but we had gone undefeated for over a year and a half going into that Olympics. So we were favored for gold. And we had a lot of confidence in how we were going to show up, and our preparation was outstanding, so on and so forth. And we had arrived to Beijing probably 3 weeks earlier to the tournament, and we had a training camp with Holland. And our training camp, we were just destroying them. We were, beating them in our scrimmages 20 to 4, 15 to 5. Yeah. And so I think there was a real kind of like, okay, we did what we were supposed to do. We're coming into this training camp. The Olympics starts literally in 2 weeks, and we're crushing, and by quite a bit of points. And in water polo, we say, if you win by 1 point, you're kicking someone's ass, because it can be that tight of a game. And so the Olympic tournament starts, we start dropping into our flow, and we're just kind of checking each team off as we go. And we're doing our job, and we're doing what we're meant to do. And we make it to the finals of the Olympic Games. And I'm 21. It's my first Olympic game. My eyes are this big. I'm scared shitless, but also at the same time, I'm well prepared. And come to find out, we're playing Holland in the finals. So we're thrilled. We prepared. We did this training camp. We've been crushing them. And we go out into that game and we're down by 4-0 immediately. We had relaxed as a team. We didn't fully focus and prepare to step into that game ready to go. I think we thought we had it in the bag. And what a great learning lesson, and a hard learning lesson at that. So we scratched and scraped and just worked our butts to get back into that game. And with 20 seconds left, we had a timeout and we were down by 1. So what our whole game plan at that point with 20 seconds left in the game was to tie the game and go into overtime and still have the opportunity to win gold. So I'm the youngest on the team. I haven't been a part of any after goal games. I haven't done any of the end of game series or anything like that. And my coach puts me in and I'm thinking like, did he make a mistake? Like, I don't want to go in there, but I got to go. I got to show up. I got to do this thing. So we go in, we have 3 shots on the cage, 3 shots on the cage. One hits the bar, bounces back. My teammate shoots it. The goalie hits it, blocks it down in front of my teammate. She picks it back up again and goes for her second shot on the cage. Goalie blocks it again, buzzer rings. And it feels like a horse has kicked me in my chest. Like I can still hear the sound of the air leaving my mouth. Like, and it was like, my body was just, I was like, we had lost the gold medal and 1 silver. And I was the furthest point away from our bench in the pool. And I had to swim all the way across the pool to our bench to see our team. Wow. And I just bawling. It was the most painful loss that I had experienced in my career, and probably to date, still the most painful loss that I had experienced. Because we weren't the underdogs. We lost. It was ours to lose, and we did it.
Right. You were Goliath. You weren't David. Right.
Exactly. And so, a lot of feelings go through your mind. And I think looking at my teammates was probably the hardest, getting out and just eye to eye and just being like, I'm sorry, we didn't get the job done. And it's a team thing, and it's a collective. It was all of our responsibilities, but the pain and just the heartbreak that went into that, and how everyone was impacted differently by that. And so, I didn't look at any pictures from Beijing. I didn't rewatch that final game. I kind of wanted to pretend like it didn't happen. I was 2 weeks late to starting school at USC, and I came off the plane from Beijing and right into college training and right into school and catching up with everything. And it was kind of like, it never happened.
What would normally happen? After that, would you guys come around, watch film, see what you can correct? Like, that's what happens in football, right? You immediately watch, the game over again and cut it up and all that. What happens in a situation like this?
It's really interesting at the Olympics. It's like everyone goes their separate ways. Everyone typically, flights are going to this place, that place. Some people are going home. Some people are starting vacation because we've been training for 4 years for this. And at that time, we also went through a coach change. So it wasn't even like for the next quad, we had a whole different coach. And so a lot had changed during that time. And the next time we were going to meet was the following summer. So everyone's back.
So you guys don't talk until then, really, for a year.
Pretty much. And so that kind
of. You got to go through that trauma by yourself, or do you lean into your teammates during it, or you guys just kind of isolate?
I don't know what my other teammates were doing, but in my experience, it was time to turn the page and start focusing on my leadership. I was a junior at USC. I was a captain. It was time to get my college team prepared. And so, you brought what you learned, but you are assessing and kind of, you're going through that process, whether it was a positive way or not for myself. It was really tough. It was really tough. And I think what also was tough, now that I'm thinking about it, was going back to SC, and halfway through our season, we had recruited the starting goalie for Holland.
No way.
And so she became our goalie at SC.
Oh my God.
And I had to digest all of that, because it was still so fresh. It was only, 3-6 months prior to that I was playing in the finals of the Olympic Games with her, and felt like, we blew it and we lost it. And, there's anger and there's frustration, and you're taking responsibility and you're not taking responsibility. And there's all these different feelings. And, at this point I'm 21, I'm not equipped with all of the ways of processing things. So then I had to kind of figure out what was it like to start building a we with the goalie that was the starting goalie for Holland and had the gold medal around her neck, and I had the silver. And I was, even processing what it was like to come home to the US and being in front of my SC teammates with this silver medal and taking responsibility for it. So, that was a test. And for me, you got to get everyone on the same page to get to where you need to go.
So let me ask you this, because the rest of us out there, we see and hear silver medal. Wow. Like, that's incredible. Are you, as an athlete, an Olympic athlete, able to appreciate winning silver, or do you look at it as it's not gold, so it's nothing?
It was a tough one for us to swallow, to be honest. It was, because you lose your last game. A lot of times, if you think about individual athletes who are racing the clock, a silver is, it's not quite gold, but you're ending at a great time.
Silver medal. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's,
number 2 in the entire world. Yeah. 2 of 2. Yes.
And I remember watching track and field, and Carmelita Gita was like, she won silver, and she's like, my name's Carmelita Gita and I'm the second fastest woman in the world. And she was so pumped up, and she finished on a high. But to lose your last game and to be favored for gold, it was tough, Jay. And now I'm proud of it, obviously, and it's changed my perspective, on how I approached the second 2 Olympics that I had the honor of competing in. And it changed everything moving forward, because you take all the hard learning lessons from that of okay, we relaxed, where were the breakdowns in our preparation? Where, could we have been better focused? What surprised us? How are we going to prepare so that we could never have to experience that again? And so that was a pretty rough introduction, to the national team as a young one. But I decided I wanted to embark on the next Olympics. And there was 8 of us girls who returned from that 2008 Olympics who was going for gold in 2012. And again, whatever motivated each of us, it was like, we wanted gold that time. We experienced silver, and we didn't want to do that again. So there was a bit of fire underneath this group, and it was now our second time around. So we kind of could anticipate what to expect and how we wanted to show up and what we wanted to change. And we were no longer that young team. And then there was 2 veterans on our team that were going on their 4th Olympic Games. So they had won silver, bronze, silver in Beijing, and then London was their opportunity to win gold. So, talk about wanting to do it for those girls. 16 years training to get that dream of winning gold. And so, I think there was it was a long 4 years, and there was a lot of building our culture and coming together. Again, I had mentioned we went through a coach change, which change is never easy, especially leadership at the top. We had to figure out kind of a new style of play, a new style of coaching, a little bit of a new approach to our game in a way. And, I remember there was a pivotal point. We're in a training camp in Italy, and
how much before the next Olympics is this training camp?
Yes, the training camp in Italy was in April of the Olympic year. So we were probably
3 months
4 or 5 months out, 4 months out. And we had a night where we were free. We were meant to come back and meet for dinner, and wires got crossed. And, the team ended up kind of butting heads that night because these girls were late and they didn't show up, and enough is enough kind of thing. And we were probably as divided as we had ever been in that 4-year quad. And it all came to a head that night in Italy. And I remember, going to bed that night feeling like, oh my gosh, what's going to be the punishment for this? Because I know our coach probably isn't too happy. And so we show up to morning practice, and I think he's just going to murder us, take us through the hardest conditioning sets and all that stuff. And he doesn't. which makes me even more terrified. I'm like, oh no. And we come back for our evening training, and he called practice. And you don't call practice. Time is really precious, especially when you're 4 to 5 months out from the Olympic Games. And I thought, okay, this is it. Sit down in my seat, and I'm kind of bracing for impact. And he looked at us and he goes, "This is your team. You guys need to figure it out." And so I thought he would stand up there and just kind of yell at us and lean into us and tell us what we need to do and how we need to be. And he basically, in a time fast with fear and division, and it's a lot of frustration and anger perhaps in the room, he gave us ownership of the team. And he said, "You girls need to figure it out. This is your team." So we circled up and we sat in a circle, and it was kind of a little bit of a kumbaya, come to Jesus, like share everything that was on our mind and our plate, but just having a really honest, challenging conversation as teammates, but still remaining respectful and direct and firm. But yet there was warmth and kindness. There was a reason for this communication. And I had at the time, I kept a journal.
This is the part of the story I love. This is what I had you tell the Rams coaches. Go ahead.
Yes, at that time I had kept a journal in my swim bag, and was wrapped up in a plastic Ziploc bag so that it didn't get wet and bleed and, get a mess. So I had written probably earlier in that year, probably 6 months prior. Oh my gosh, it's like making me a little emotional even still today. But I had written down all of my fears and concerns about reliving that experience of winning a silver medal, because again, it was the most heartbreaking and most challenging loss that I had ever experienced. And I wrote down like what scared me, what I wanted from my teammates, what that experience really was like.
How much losing sucks, the pain of losing.
Yep. And I had dumped all of that in that journal. And that day I felt moved to pull that journal out of my bag, and I was shaking. I was so nervous because it was such a vulnerable experience, and it was so close to my heart. And 8 girls on that team had experienced it, but I don't know that I had ever shared it in that kind of depth and that close to my heart. And so I'm shaking, and I'm like trying to.
Yeah, you're sharing your pain so others understand it.
That's right.
Like I look at it a lot of times like we have to go through our pain so we could help others through theirs. And that's exactly what this is.
Yes. And so I'm trying to open my Ziploc bag. It's one of those like zipper ones, and it's stuck. And so now I'm like ripping the plastic, it's like all dramatic. And I open up the journal and I start reading, and I'm crying. And then pretty soon, like, my teammates who are part of it are crying. And then the whole room is crying, because it was such a raw, real emotion. And my ask in that was that, that we come together as a team, because one, I didn't want to experience that again, but even more so, I didn't want my team to have to experience. And it was that feeling, and the girls coming in for their first time, we had a track record of winning, and, there's the expectation that we'll win. We're favored for gold, and we're the US, and we're just going to win a gold medal. And it's that easy. And it's not, and I don't want to feel that way. And I want to make sure you don't feel that way. And the ask was for us to come together and navigate through this, because trust me, we don't want to end up on any other podium but the top. And I think that, I look back at that time, and it was a big pivotal moment for our team. There was a lot of positive that was shared in that circle that day. And I think about my contribution and the positivity that brought in regards to getting us moving in a right direction from that division. And I think, I look back at that, and I wouldn't change, the awkwardness and the courage and the sweaty armpits and the moment and the shaking of the hands and the tears. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Because fast forward, we go to London.
Wait, back up though. Cause you've told me this story. You said that really brought the team together. And you also told me that's the day you knew your team would win gold.
Yeah.
And you started doing something immediately.
Yeah. So actually I was home after that training camp, and we were getting back into our kind of flow of training at home on US soil prior to going to London. And I remember vividly, I was working on the computer doing something prior to practice, and I kind of got like this full body chill over me. And I wasn't with any teammates or anything. My boyfriend was in the room at the time. And I looked at him and I said, we're going to win a gold medal in London. Like, I know, and like whatever just came over me, I know in every cell in my body that we are going to win. And, my boyfriend's like, okay, like, whatever. And I was like, no, like I was so certain. And whatever that feeling was that came over me, that like, just, I knew. So I thought like, okay, if it's, if we're going to be winning, which I know now because I felt that feeling, I better be ready to like sing the national anthem on, worldwide TV. So the pool was about 20 minutes from my house, and I would turn off the radio and sit in silence. And I would sing on my way to the pool, my 20 minutes, the national anthem. And I would just practice, oh, say, and I would sing it really loud and proud. And for me, it was so important to not be one of those bloopers or like, the U.S. athlete doesn't the national
practicing the national anthem. No, and I'm going to win gold. So
yeah,
I've got to start practicing the anthem is unbelievable.
Yes. I mean, talk about like putting yourself there. So I was just visualizing us on that podium, receiving our gold medals and watching that flag go up and singing our national anthem. And again, I can feel the emotion bubbling up because we lived it out. We were able to reach that place of coming together as a team, working through another tournament, using our learning lessons from Beijing and learning our learning lessons from the silver medal, and won a gold medal in London. And watching, my teammates who, again, this was their 4th Olympic Games, 16 years working towards this goal, and watching them receive their gold medals around their neck. And
I'm getting emotional. You
oh my God.
Right?
It was I can't even describe it. And then your flag starts to go up, and you've dreamt about this since you were a little girl, and the national anthem starts to play. And I'm just like bawling, like eyes are streaming, snot's coming out of my nose, like I'm breathing out of my mouth. All that practice on the national anthem, I just threw it out the window because I could not sing anything in that moment. I was just a wreck because it was, and you've got your family in the stands. They've all come down towards the pool deck and they're watching you with your gold medal and the flag. And it's just like, it's one of the most proudest moments in my life, personally for my team, but even as an American. Whew, it's hard to describe, but that made the silver medal worth it all, and impacted and changed everything in how we moved forward. And it even adjusted our culture, and it even adjusted, how we did certain things. And so I think it's super important to learn from those failures and bring them forward. And that, I laugh at this story. So when we're finished kind of going through the medal ceremony and winning gold, we're all sitting in a waiting room, and this is, with international play, one of our girls is getting drug tested. So it's like, we all got to wait. She's got to get drug tested. We just won this gold medal. We just want to go party and like celebrate, but we're all sitting and waiting. And my coach was sitting on the arm of my chair. And I remember looking up at him and I said, "You want to do this again?"
Really?
He's like, "Could you just be in the moment, Cammie? Enjoy what we did." And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But I mean, it felt that good. And I was on such a high from the win and from the experience that I was like, sign me up for the next 4 years. Like, I'm ready to go. Like, I want to feel this feeling over and over again.
So you do sign up for it again. You win another gold.
Yes.
Right. And where was that at?
That was in Rio.
Okay. Rio.
Yeah.
What's the difference in feelings of the two of winning both those gold medals?
Yeah, I think, it had to do with my experience and my age that felt the most different. I think I went from being kind of the middle of the herd in 2012. I was 25. I had veteran teammates that really, some of them really carried and burdened some weight that I didn't have to as, you know, a returner, but still a younger athlete. And, you know, I think I felt like I had more support and we were doing it together. And I think in 2016, I felt very much on that kind of end of, it was me and one other girl who were the oldest on the team, and we were returners. And I felt, you know, there's a little bit more that you hold, and you get to a point in your leadership where, you know, you're not just like this taking care of your job and your role, but you're now, your eyes are wider and your chin is up, and you're taking care of the whole, not just the individual. And so, you know, I felt that, and I think there was a little bit of like relief almost that we made it in Rio. Like I got these girls here, you know, like I did my job and my role as, you know, the athlete that I needed to be. I did my job and role as a leader. And, you know, I got these young girls through this process, and it felt like such a like passing of the torch. And so, although it was still the same, I was still bawling, and I was still emotional, and I was still so proud, and I was very connected with that team. But I felt more of like a veteran leader, that there was also this relief of like, oh my God, we did it. Like everyone, no one experienced any bad feelings. We like got to the top, and it was great, where I felt a little bit more a part of, you know, I was kind of more in the middle in 2012.
Did you know going in the last one, it would be your last one?
Yeah.
So that's different, right? So you had your first gold medal and then your last gold medal 4 years later.
Yeah. Yes. And standing on that podium and knowing, I think what's really unique about the Olympic experience is once you step off the podium, we kind of all just go in our different directions. You know, it's like, sometimes we all end up like hanging out and partying at the end. Some people are with their families. Some people already are flying out for like, again, it's like you work into this big peak point, and then everyone's just like, you know? And so once you step off that podium and that last bus ride home is over, that team's never that team again. So, I had, you know, every time I feel that experience of stepping off that, and had in those 3 years, I knew that it was never going to be the same. That was it. That was the moment where that team came together and did all the right things to see themselves succeed and get to the top of the podium. And then from that moment, you step off, and that team will never be the same.
Wow.
Because one person will retire, or this person won't come back, or, you know, the dynamic shifts. And so there's a little bit of that feeling. And then I knew that that was going to be my last experience in that position. And so, you know, I was holding all of that, but you're so in the moment that, you know, you don't start processing that until you're sitting at home on your couch by yourself going like, is someone going to send me the practice schedule? And it's not coming. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you knew, you were prepared, that, yeah, I met you because you were struggling when it ended. Right. And, you know, you came to me for help to help you through the transition. So I guess if you look back at it now, knowing what you've gone through, what you tell these other Olympians, how would you is there a way to better prepare yourself for when the end comes and you have to go into transition?
Yeah, I think, you know, as I look back and I reflect, and I think everyone is different of what their needs are, but I found that if I could do anything different, I would have probably put MVP or community like MVP and mentors around me prior to retiring. Like if I had been, you know, a part of, and maybe it wasn't like a weekly going to our sessions, but like if I knew that was already behind me as I was going.
So a new team to transition to.
Absolutely. Rather than having to struggle and then searching and finding when you feel, you know, not like yourself and you're perhaps lacking confidence or direction, or, you know, all of the emotions that come with transition, with anxiety, depression, you know, isolation, embarrassment, you know, all those things that can emerge for athletes in different ways. I think having mentors and community in place prior to your retirement, understanding that, you know, you are now responsible for your own schedule and routine. So finding your schedule and routine, and then plugging in movement, you know, like athletes want to go, we want to move, and we're trained to, I think one of the things that I took from the huddle is we're trained to turn it on, but we're not trained to turn it off. And so I think making sure all those things are in place prior to your retirement. So again, when you're feeling far away from who you are at your core, that those things are kind of operating for you.
And I want people to understand, I use this as in my book, Unbreakable, on here when I'm trying to teach people about how to navigate their own gray, their depression, anxiety. Is team for me is a huge thing. It's one of my pillars of getting through it. But I think a lot of people try to search for the same exact type of team, and you don't have to. So like for me, I'm like, hey, God's a teammate. My dog's a teammate. Right now, my wife is a teammate. Certain friends are. My Fox NFL Sunday crew, my fight team's a team. Like you have these different teams. You just have to recognize it and not put so much pressure on them that they're not the U.S. Olympic women's border polo team.
That's really well said, Jay, because I think you can't replace it. Like I said, the moment you step off that podium, that team's never the same. And so it would be almost foolish of us to think that we could replace that specific team. We couldn't even do it with another group of water polo players. I think that your teams are always evolving and they're always changing. And I love that idea of thinking, not putting so much pressure on the new team that you're developing, but recognizing what roles that they're playing for you. And they may not be passing you a ball or, blocking the ball behind you that you missed, but what is their role within your life today outside of the pool or off the field or off the ice, Hey,
what's one of the coolest things about the Olympic experience that we may not know?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I would say our Olympic tournament is 2 weeks long and the Olympic tournament is 2 weeks long. And so we're locked in from start to finish. And I think, people talk about like, oh, it's such a cool thing. Swimming is the first week, they get their events done. And then they've got kind of like the second week to hang and explore. And I think volleyball's the same way I would be.
Yeah, volleyball's the same way. Yeah. They start the day after the ceremony. So.
Yeah. So you're locked in start to finish. And, for us, I think it was really about making that Olympic Village home. And, being comfortable and moving through 2 weeks and staying focused. And I think what was cool about the Olympic experience, I think it's just interacting with other athletes and having a sense and understanding of what they sacrificed and probably what it took to get there. And knowing they each have a story and everyone's wearing, everybody wears their gear. Nobody's like wearing street clothes in the Olympic Village. Everyone's got USA or, Italy, like everyone's got their swag on and they're representing what they're representing and everyone's focused and they're moving through, and the dining hall's a buzz and anywhere that, going to the bus is a buzz. And you just think like anyone at any moment is jumping on a bus to go try to like fulfill their dreams of whatever that may be for them Olympic journey. So I think it's just really cool to just be aware of those who are moving around you. And there's some like really high profile athletes that are moving through the Olympic Village as well. And in that moment, we're all in the same playing field. And that's really cool to experience that.
Were you also at the closing ceremonies?
I was, yeah.
Okay. So what's the difference in emotion between opening and closing ceremonies?
Oh man, it's a difference in the weight that you're holding and your focus. I mean, at closing ceremonies, the job's done. You've got your medal around your neck and you're like, it's a party, and opening ceremonies really, it's just like you made it, like you arrived. There's all these kind of surreal little moments after you're named to an Olympic team that you're like, oh, like I made it, I'm here. Like first you're named to it and then you get like all of your gear and you're just, again, swagged out by Nike and Ralph Lauren. And you're like, just given these giant suitcases of like all this cool gear. And you're like, whoa, that's cool. I feel like I made it. Then you arrive to Olympic Village and you're moving through it with all the other athletes and you're like, whoa, I made it, and then you're dressed up in your opening ceremony uniform with all of the other US athletes and you start hearing the stadium rumble and it's USA, and they know you're coming in and you go in and you feel this big in a massive stadium. I'm water polo, I'm not football, Jay. And I'm, everyone's roaring out there and you're just proud and you're like, this is the essence of being an Olympic athlete and representing your country. And yeah, and that's just another thing. And arriving to the pool that you're competing in, you're like, man, we made it. So there's all these moments that continue to just, you pause and just enjoy it along the way. That it's just, it feels awesome, you know?
I got 3 questions for you. We're going to run out of time here. Number 1, when you're in a game, what's the time frame of how long you're in that pool, you know, swimming and treading water?
So we have 4 8-minute quarters. And so, I mean, any games.
You're in there the whole time?
No, we sub in and out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say probably, I mean, back then I was probably playing 65%.
Right.
You sub just depending
so
on
you're doing 5-minute goes, or is it like 2 minutes in, 2 minutes out? Like, how is it?
3 minutes, 4 minutes, just depending on how the quarter goes. But to play a whole quarter in my position specifically would be a lot.
You're the enforcer pretty much. You're the one drowning the other girls, right?
Yeah, I'm the center. My job is to just basically have someone like try to drown me the whole time, and I have to score goals. You know, we have some other girls who would play full quarters, but yeah, you're looking at anywhere from 3 minutes and 50 seconds to 4 minutes, and then you're subbing.
Is there a certain breathing technique you do during the time there?
No, I think you think about breathing technique. It's just having your head on the lane line, just taking those big, deep breaths. You know, there's times where I'm going
in your diaphragm or in your lungs?
Lungs, just big, deep. And, you know, you're in the water at that point. You just want to slow it all down. And there's been times I've gone up against Australia and Hungary, which has some pretty big defenders who guard my position. And I think, you know, with my head on that lane line before the whistle blows and the ball drops, this may be the last good breath that I get. So enjoy it while I have it. But yeah, I think, you know, the conditioning that goes into our sport is just ridiculous. Yeah. And we train 6.5 hours a day, 6 days a week to play 8 4-minute quarters.
6.5 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Yep.
Wow.
Yes.
Is that training predominantly in the pool, or is it both?
We do about an hour and a half, at times 2 hours in the weight room, and we would do running and conditioning. Wow. So a lot of strength training and gym, and then swimming and conditioning, legs, and then just repping our game and playing polo.
All right.
And
go ahead.
No, it's just intense. You know, I think it's the conditioning is unreal.
Last 2 questions. I know you've used a lot of your experience to move on and coach in your next phase of life here. Explain what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I work for a boutique coaching firm called Mindful Warrior, and I do executive performance coaching. So everything that I have learned about building teams and building culture and building bridges and connections within teams and getting teams to the top of the podium, I'm now bringing into corporations and organizations and working with CEOs and C-suites and helping do the same. And I pinch myself every day because it does feel so much like what I have the opportunity doing in the water, and now bringing it to.
I was going to ask you that because you're a born coach. I think you're a born coach.
Thanks,
and right, even though you played and you've had 3 medals, but I've always looked at you as more of you're a born leader. You're a born coach. So I was going to ask you, is it fulfill you? Is it able to fill you up to sort of hear this? Because I knew the struggles you had in transition. So to hear you say that it feels like it and it's fulfilling you, Casey, that's everything.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. It's giving back and helping others.
Give service. Yep.
Figure out.
I want people to understand this. Cameron went through a period of years where she was trying to find this. And there were a lot of really dark times during that, but she found it. So don't give up trying to find it. Like, imagine if you gave up and you never got to experience this level of joy that you have right now.
And it's the patience, and it's putting the right community around you to help you keep your confidence and doubts at bay, but keep your confidence up. And thank you. Yeah, it took some time to find it, but it feels like I get to be a teammate to really amazing clients.
I love it. Well, you're always my teammate. You know that.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Since I met you at Unbreakable, the gym, give me your Unbreakable moment. The moment that should have broken you or could have, but didn't. And as a result, you came through the other side of that tunnel stronger forever.
Yeah, I think in following my retirement, I had experienced some low lows and I was having a hard time finding the ground underneath my feet. And I thought, my friends could help me, my boyfriend could heal me, my parents could heal me. I wanted anyone to kind of take that pain away. And I was lashing out at the people closest to me because I'm like, do something. I don't know what to do. Like, how do I get through this? And there was a significant day where I was sitting at the beach just thinking like, what am I going to do? A really, really low day for me and feeling really kind of distant from those close to me because I was thrashing and pushing them away, but also needing them so badly in this rough transition. And that was the day that I chose to call a therapist and start seeking therapy and getting help in this transition. And within that period of time, that was also when I realized that I was the only one that could take responsibility for my feelings and experience. And I was the only one that was going to be able to heal myself through this journey. My boyfriend couldn't do it. My parents couldn't do it. My friends couldn't do it. I was the one that had to do it. And a good therapist is one that facilitates you being able to heal yourself. And what a great, great thing to be able to learn and grab. And it could have gone that direction, but it went in the right direction. And again, my experience through healing is now allowing me to show up for others and share that immediately.
A healed Cami is a happy Cami. A happy Cami is a happy Jay Glazer.
Thanks, Jay.
I really appreciate it. Cami Craig, love the story. By the way, when she told this story to the Rams coaches, their reactions, what the fuck? You got to wait 4 years? And they just lost the Super Bowl to the Patriots.
Yes.
And I was like, right? And I was like, man, tell your players to go journal and talk about how much it sucks to lose like Cami did. And I know Sean went and talked to a couple of those guys about it. It was great.
Oh,
so yeah,
so awesome.
You're a born coach, and I love you.